LeBron James earns more than $100 million a year. He's spent 2 decades as the most famous athlete on the planet. And he still doesn't own a private jet, not a Gulfstream, not a Challenger, not a converted airliner with his name on the tail. Every few months, a post goes around claiming he owns one. A Gulfstream G280, they say, worth $22 million. And every few months, LeBron gets on Instagram and shuts it down himself. So the question isn't whether he can afford one, it's why, with that kind of money sitting in the bank, the man still says no. LeBron James refuses to buy a private jet, and the reasons go back further than most people realize. The most recent flashpoint came when a social media post started circulating, a list of NBA legends who supposedly own private aircraft. LeBron's name was on it, right next to Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, and Magic Johnson. A post claimed that he owns a private jet, a Gulfstream G280, that is reportedly worth $22 million. On paper, nobody would have blinked. James has a net worth of $1.2 billion, according to Forbes, so it wasn't exactly shocking for him to own several assets and other luxury items. LeBron didn't let it slide. After he saw the post, he said it's cap, and on his Instagram stories, he shared the post and demanded that his name be removed from the list. He wrote it plainly, "Take me off this list," and the internet listened. His demand was quickly fulfilled. After his Instagram stories message, the post was edited, with the slide featuring his photo and information about his alleged jet removed. That wasn't a one-off. This has happened over and over. In 2025, after an Instagram post suggested that James was among NBA players who own a private jet, he responded directly on his IG story, "Take me off this list. Lies, I do not own a private plane." Multiple outlets had run with the story before that too. Multiple media outlets and social media accounts listed James as a private plane owner, despite his multiple denials. Fans piled on in his defense almost immediately. Sportskeeda covered the reaction directly. LeBron James quickly called out the publication for the claim, saying it was false and needed to be taken down. And following his comment, fans also flooded the post in defense of the LA Lakers star. The headline of the story it accompanied said it plainly, "Don't lie on my king." Here's the thing that makes this genuinely strange. It's not like LeBron is hiding some secret frugality. He flies private constantly. He's been photographed boarding charters, landing at private terminals, traveling with an entourage on planes that clearly aren't commercial. So why does he keep getting lumped in with actual owners like Jordan and O'Neal? And why does he keep pushing back so hard every single time? Because there's a difference. A real financial legal difference between chartering a plane and owning one. And LeBron has spent 15 years explaining that difference to anyone who'll listen, going all the way back to a living room in Ohio in 2010. That's where this story actually starts. Not with a billionaire turning down a luxury, with a much younger, much less wealthy version of LeBron, sitting across from a legendary interviewer, laying out the exact math that still governs his decision today. Long before the billion-dollar Forbes number, before the multiple championships, before the Lakers years, LeBron sat down with Larry King for a CNN interview at his home outside Akron. It was 2010. The summer of his free agency, the summer that would end with him leaving Cleveland for Miami. In the middle of a wide-ranging conversation about fame, money, and temptation, King brought up something specific: private aviation. King name-dropped NetJets, the fractional private jet company backed by Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway, and asked LeBron directly whether he used the service. LeBron confirmed it. NetJets was. King started. "Yes, absolutely," James answered, when King connected it to Buffett. That single exchange is the origin point of everything that's followed. Even back then, at 25 years old, years away from anything close to billionaire status, LeBron was already drawing a line between using private aviation and owning it. NetJets doesn't sell you a plane, it sells you fractional shares and flight hours. You get the seat, the tarmac access, the skip the terminal convenience. without ever having your name on a title deed for an aircraft that depreciates the moment it takes off. That distinction has followed him his entire career. Reporting on the topic years later laid out exactly what he'd been doing instead of buying. Although most would think that James owns a private plane, he actually does not. He does fly private, but through charters and services rather than owning a private jet, which has tremendous costs and ownership responsibilities that would make one's head spin. That's the whole equation right there. Flying private isn't the issue. Owning the plane is. And it's worth sitting with why that distinction matters so much to somebody who could, by any reasonable measure, afford either one. Just because a person flies private doesn't mean they own a private plane. That's one of the biggest misconceptions about wealthy individuals. In fact, many wealthy people fly charter jets or have access arrangements through companies. And ultimately, these kinds of flights offer the benefits of private travel with much lower costs. Ownership brings a maintenance crew. You have to pay whether the plane flies or not. It brings insurance premiums, hangar fees, a full-time flight crew on payroll, depreciation that starts the second the aircraft leaves the factory, and a chunk of capital sitting mostly idle between trips. Chartering strips all of that away. You show up, you fly, you pay for the hours you actually used, and somebody else deals with the maintenance logs and the crew scheduling. For a guy who was about to make one of the biggest financial decisions of his career, that same summer, leaving Cleveland, taking less than the max contract, at various points restructuring deals for cap flexibility. That kind of clear-eyed cost accounting wasn't out of character, it was the pattern. Which brings up the obvious follow-up question. 15 years, several $100 million in salary, and over $1 billion in overall wealth later. Has anything about that math actually changed for him? Or has the number just gotten bigger while the logic stayed exactly the same? The answer, it turns out, is the second one. And the person who explained why in the most concrete terms wasn't LeBron himself. It was his agent. If you want to understand why even NBA superstars making $200 million in career earnings don't automatically become private jet owners, you talk to Rich Paul. He's LeBron's longtime agent, the founder of Clutch Sports, and arguably the most powerful player representative in the league. In 2023, at a business conference called InvestFest, Paul got specific about the economics of being a professional athlete, and what he said cuts directly against the assumption that a max contract equals unlimited luxury spending. Paul laid out what he called the harsh reality facing players earning nine-figure deals. Paul described the harsh reality of players who earn $200 million contracts, revealing how, despite earning such reasonably high incomes, players often can't afford to fly on private jets consistently. Read that again. $200 million contracts and private jet ownership still isn't automatic. That's the number that should reframe how people think about athlete wealth. Gross contract value and disposable capital for owning a depreciating six-figure an hour to maintain asset are two completely different things. Taxes take a bite. Agent fees take a bite. Team payments, business managers, state income tax variances between cities. By the time it filters down, the money left over for a plane that needs a full-time crew and burns through maintenance costs, whether it flies or not, is a lot smaller than the sticker price of the contract would suggest. Paul then singled out LeBron specifically as the rare exception who actually could clear that bar. He said LeBron James might be the only exception to own a private jet, since given his billionaire status from several brand endorsements and business engagements, James could afford to buy a Gulfstream G280 jet worth $22 million. James's income from his NBA contracts and $480 million worth of endorsements makes it possible for him to afford a private jet ride for as long as he needs. So, according to his own agent, the man who negotiates his deals and knows his financial picture better than almost anyone outside LeBron's inner circle, LeBron is the one guy in the league who genuinely could buy the plane without blinking. And he still hasn't. That's not an accident. That's a choice made repeatedly, year after year, against the exact backdrop That would make ownership justifiable for almost anybody else in his tax bracket. Compare that to how his peers have handled the same math. Shaquille O'Neal, for years one of the most recognizable big men in league history, took a different path entirely once he retired. Shaq and LeBron have both stated that the cost of owning a private jet is just too expensive. But Shaq did purchase a Challenger 605, primarily focusing on entrepreneurial activities and his role as an activist, which requires frequent on-demand travel. Even Shaq, who eventually did buy a plane, agreed publicly with LeBron on the underlying premise that ownership carries a cost burden that isn't casually absorbed, even by someone with hundreds of millions in career earnings. Michael Jordan followed a similar arc. Michael Jordan took delivery of a Gulfstream G650EAR in 2024, one of the last of that model, to roll off the line before Gulfstream transitioned to newer aircraft. Notice the timing. Jordan bought his plane decades after he stopped playing. Once his post-career fortune built off Nike royalties, the Hornets' ownership stake, and years of licensing income had fully matured, he wasn't buying it. During his playing days, when travel needs were dictated by a team schedule, he bought it as a retired billionaire with total control over his calendar. And that timing detail turns out to matter more than almost anything else in this whole story, because the analysts who track this stuff notice the exact same pattern across the league. It's notable that the 3 NBA players known to own private jets are multimillionaires or billionaires who have long been out of the game, while it's long been rumored that certain active NBA players may own a private jet. Nothing substantial has ever come out of these rumors, and LeBron James even confirmed that he does not own an aircraft in 2025. Active. That's the key word. Every confirmed private jet owner from the NBA world made that purchase after retirement, when travel became a personal choice rather than a professional obligation. LeBron, still playing into his 40s, was operating under a completely different set of travel logistics than Jordan, Shaq, or Magic Johnson ever were during his own playing years. And that difference in logistics is the next piece of this whole puzzle. Here's the part of this story that rarely gets mentioned. When people speculate about LeBron's finances, he almost never actually needs a personal jet, because for the vast majority of his travel, the league is already handling it for him, and handling it at a level most private owners couldn't even match. The NBA's team travel has evolved into a fleet-level operation. LeBron James, despite being the first active NBA player to achieve billionaire status, primarily travels for NBA games and therefore flies on the NBA's dedicated fleet of Boeing 757-200s, operated by Delta Air Lines. That's not a budget commercial flight with a curtain pulled across first class. It's a purpose-built travel arrangement the league has spent years refining specifically for its own players. The scale of that arrangement is bigger than most fans realize. In most sports leagues, teams typically charter aircraft from commercial airlines, but the NBA has an agreement with Delta Air Lines to be the exclusive travel partner for most teams. And it's not a handful of teams doing this quietly. It's almost the entire league. Currently, NBA executives have negotiated a contract that allows for the charter of airplanes through Delta Air Lines, with the Atlanta-based airline currently serving as many as 27 of the 30 NBA teams, with the majority of these teams utilizing Boeing 757s. These aren't standard commercial configurations either. The league stripped these planes down and rebuilt them, specifically around what NBA-sized bodies actually need. The Boeing 757s that are chartered by NBA teams are configured to fit up to 72 passengers in a business class configuration, and these VIP-configured Boeing 757s flown by Delta Air Lines include custom lie-flat beds, humidifiers, and adjustable lighting, which may help reduce travel fatigue. Compare that to a standard 757 layout. On the inside, these planes feature just 72 seats, compared to the standard Delta 757-200 layout that can seat nearly 200 passengers, with these seats arranged 4 abreast, similar to those used for domestic first class. and some seats facing each other and separated by a table for socializing. So for 80-plus games a season, plus playoffs, LeBron is already flying on a plane with more legroom, more privacy, and more comfort than most personally owned jets could offer, without spending a dollar of his own money on the aircraft, the crew, or the maintenance. The league absorbs that cost as part of team operations. He gets private jet-level comfort as a built-in job benefit. That leaves only the personal travel. Family trips, off-season business, vacations, as the category where LeBron would even need to think about chartering something himself. And for that smaller slice of his calendar, the charter model still wins on pure economics. When flying personally, LeBron and many other famous players, such as Stephen Curry or Kevin Durant, charter private jets from companies such as NetJets. That's the exact company King brought up back in 2010. 15 years later, the arrangement hasn't changed. It's also possible, though not confirmed, that some players may hold fractional ownership in an aircraft. When chartering a jet, customers essentially get the same benefits of private jet travel, but only pay the hourly rate of the aircraft while in use, rather than paying for an aircraft's full capital and maintenance costs. Think about what that means in practical terms. If LeBron flies charter for personal trips maybe 20-30 times a year, he's paying an hourly rate only for the hours he's in the air. An owned jet, by contrast, costs money every single day it exists, whether it's sitting in a hangar in Ohio or crossing the Atlantic. Crew salaries don't pause. Insurance doesn't pause. Scheduled maintenance inspections don't care whether the plane flew last month or sat parked. For someone whose actual personal flying volume is relatively modest, team travel covers the bulk of his year. Ownership would mean paying full-time costs for part-time use. That's not stinginess. That's the same cost-benefit logic he laid out with Larry King in 2010, just scaled up with 2 more decades of real-world data behind it. The team plane handles the job travel. The charter service handles the personal travel, and the math for buying his own aircraft on top of both of those things simply never closes. Not because he can't afford the sticker price, but because the ongoing costs would dramatically outpace what he'd actually use it for. There's also a business optics layer to this that shouldn't be overlooked, because it connects directly to how LeBron has built his fortune outside of basketball entirely. By 2026, LeBron's fortune has grown into territory very few athletes in history have ever reached. Depending on which outlet you check, the estimates land somewhere in the range of $1.2 to $1.4 billion. Forbes has him listed among the very few athletes in that stratosphere, describing him as the first active NBA player to become a billionaire. That fortune was never built off a single paycheck. It's stitched together from decades of salary, a lifetime Nike deal, and a portfolio of equity stakes most athletes never come close to assembling. He co-founded Spring Hill, the entertainment company behind documentaries, television series, and feature films, and made several investments that have become textbook examples of athlete entrepreneurship. An early stake in Blaze Pizza produced one of the biggest investment wins of any modern athlete, while his ownership interest in Fenway Sports Group connected him to some of the world's most recognizable franchises, including the Boston Red Sox, Liverpool FC, and NASCAR's RFK Racing. That's the kind of portfolio built by someone who thinks like an investor, not just a spender. And a private jet, from a pure balance sheet perspective, doesn't fit that profile. It's one of the fastest depreciating big-ticket assets a wealthy person can buy. The value drops the moment it leaves the manufacturer, and it keeps dropping every year after that, regardless of how well it's maintained. For a guy who's spent 2 decades building equity stakes in companies that appreciate, a pizza chain, a media company, a Premier League football club, sinking $20+ million into an asset engineered to lose value, on a fixed schedule cuts against everything else in his financial approach. There's also the simple reputational math that comes with being the guy who grew up without much and built all of this from nothing. One breakdown of his career put it simply: he built a business empire that turned decades of on-court success into far more than a basketball salary could have provided, buying an unnecessary jet when the same seat is available through charter for a fraction of the ongoing cost doesn't fit the image of a rational, disciplined operator that he spent his whole career cultivating, both on the court and in the boardroom. So where does that leave the plain rumors, the recurring Instagram posts, the lists that keep circulating with his face next to Jordan's and Shaq's, the headlines about a $22 million Gulfstream? They keep coming back because the assumption makes intuitive sense. Billionaire, global icon, surely he's got a jet with his logo on the tail. But the actual mechanics tell a different story. The league already puts him on a custom-configured 757 for the bulk of his travel every season. His personal trips run through charter services that let him pay only for the hours he flies, and every confirmed owner among his peers, Jordan, O'Neal, Magic Johnson, made that purchase only once their playing days, and the team plane arrangement that came with them were firmly in the rearview mirror. Every time a new post claims otherwise, LeBron responds the same way he did in 2010 and the same way he did in 2025, on the record, in his own words, correcting it directly. The math hasn't changed, the plane still doesn't make sense, and until his playing career actually ends, don't expect that answer to change either. Sources: LeBron James rejects one of the biggest billionaire stereotypes, basketballnetwork.https://www.basketballnetwork.net. Roth the court. LeBron James rejects one of the biggest billionaire stereotypes. Yahoo Sports. https://sports.yahoo.com. Rodiclos. LeBron James rejects Vegas 151,800,731.html. The NBA players with private jets. Simple Flying. https://simpleflying.com's NBA players, private jets. LeBron James makes demand after $22 million private jet claim. Athlon Sports. https://athlonsports.com's NBA Los Angeles Lakers. LeBron James makes demand after $22 million private jet claim. LeBron James rejects entry in exclusive list. Michael Jordan owning multi-million asset. Rich Paul explains why NBA players can't fly private all the time. The Sports Rush. https://thesportsrush.com's NBA News. LeBron James agent flexing his multitude of 200 million contracts explains why NBA players can't fly private all the time. Don't lie on my king. Sportskeeda. https://www.sportskeeda.com's basketball news. Don't lie king. LeBron James fans react. Lakers star allegedly shooting claim owns private jet. LeBron James makes demand after $22 million private jet claim. Yardbarker. https://www.yardbarker.com's NBA articles. LeBron James makes demand after $22 million private jet claim. Yardbarker. https://www.yardbarker.com's NBA articles. LeBron James makes demand after $22 million private jet claim. Yardbarker. https://www.yardbarker.com/NBA articles. LeBron James makes demand after $22 million private jet claim. Yardbarker at https://www.yardbarker.com script index HTML. LeBron James Forbes profile. https://www.forbes.com's profile. LeBron James net worth in 2026. SI.com. https://www.cnnokeworkwort 1 James net worth in 2026. NBA superstar build billion fortune. The NBA teams with luxurious private jets. Simple Flying. https://simpleflying.com's NBA teams luxurious private jets. Which NBA team flies the most private jets? Simple Flying. James script indexed HTML. LeBron James Forbes profile. https://www.cnnokeworth in 2026. How NBA superstar built billion fortune. The NBA teams with luxurious private jets. Simple Flying. https://simpleflying.com's NBA teams luxurious private jets. Which NBA team flies the most private jets? Simple Flying. https://simpleflying.com's NBA teams luxurious private jets. Which NBA team flies the most private jets? Simple Flying. https://simpleflying.com's NBA teams luxurious private jets. Which NBA team flies the most private jets? Simple Flying. https://simpleflying.com's NBA teams luxurious private jets. Which NBA team flies the most private jets? Simple Flying. https://simpleflying.com's NBA teams fly most private jets.